Dreamworld is Australia's largest theme park. This park offers something for everyone. You have the country's largest ride lineup, some bits of theming, and a pretty good zoo. This park has changed mightily over the past few years, and I would argue it's still the country's most complete park. I will explain why in this review. Dreamworld opened back in 1981. Located in Gold Coast, Australia, it quickly grew into the country's premier park and gained international recognition in the 1990s for two record-breaking thrill rides. Tower of Terror opened in 1997 as the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster. Then Giant Drop opened 1 year later on the side of Tower of Terror as the world's tallest drop tower. Shortly after these two rides opened, the park was acquired by Ardent Leisure, who has run the park ever since. However, the park's fortunes took a turn for the worse after a horrific accident in 2016. A water pump failed in the Thunder River Rapids ride, causing low water levels. When two rafts collided on the ride's conveyor belt lift hill, one pivoted upwards and tipped against the lift mechanism. 4 riders lost their lives as they were pinned between the raft and conveyor belt. Dreamworld pled guilty in 2020 to poor maintenance and inadequate safety procedures. This tragic accident had a major implication for not only Dreamworld, but the entire Australian theme park industry. Attendance dropped at all the country's parks. Dreamworld specifically saw a 30% drop in attendance the following year. It also led to more stringent safety standards. This is why Australia has such thorough policies when it comes to restraint checks and loose articles. On the bright side, it's now safer than ever to visit theme parks in Australia, including Dreamworld. This accident also caused a major overhaul in the ride lineup at Dreamworld. The Thunder River Rapids ride was understandably closed and removed, but a few other highly popular attractions were closed shortly thereafter as well. These closures included Tower of Terror. This was an Intamin reverse freefall coaster. It was still the country's tallest and fastest coaster when it closed in 2019. Wipeout. This was a Vekoma Waikiki wave flat ride that also closed in 2019. Big Red Car. This was a Wiggles-themed dark ride that closed in 2020. Rocky Hollow Log Ride. This was an old log flume that also closed in 2020. The ride had recently been modified after the Rapids accident to enclose riders with cages. Buzzsaw. This was a Mauer-Sone sky loop that closed in 2021. This marked the park's second major thrill coaster to close in just 2 years. Official statements cited the park wanted to focus on future developments, but all these rides had high operating costs and/or needed a major refurbishment. It is fair to wonder if they would still be around had the Rapids ride not caused a decline in attendance. Instead, Dreamworld has decided to invest in brand new rides to revitalize its image. 3 in particular stand out. First was Sky Voyager. This opened in 2019 as the Southern Hemisphere's first and only flying theater. Second was Steel Titan. This was a launch coaster that opened in 2021 as the park's new headlining attraction. Third will be Jungle Rush. This will be a long and well-themed family coaster from Vekoma, expected to open in 2024. These additions have been necessary to draw crowds back to Dreamworld because the park's in a highly competitive theme park market. Gold Coast is home to 2 other sizable parks now, both owned by Village Roadshow. One is Warner Bros. Movie World, which now is a case as the country's premier thrill park, especially with the opening of DC Rivals Hypercoaster. The other is SeaWorld. This park is most notable for its large collection of sea creatures, but it recently opened the new Atlantis-themed area and a new signature coaster in Leviathan. One of the biggest selling points of these parks is that Village Roadshow offers a combo pass to these 2 parks and a few additional properties. Dreamworld's parent company and Ardent Leisure also offers their own combo pass. This one includes Dreamworld, the adjacent WhiteWater World water park, and the Sky Point observation deck. The latter is a 1,058-foot or 322-meter-tall skyscraper 25 kilometers southeast of the park in Surfer's Paradise. The views up there are fantastic. All the area's theme parks are pricey, and Dreamworld is no different. Day tickets start at 95 Australian dollars. The price increases if you add the combo options, but the price decreases considerably if you're a local. One positive is that you do not have to pay for parking. There's a giant free lot adjacent to the park. You then have separate entrances for the main theme park, the popular LEGO store, and WhiteWater World. If you don't have a car and are staying in the Gold Coast, you can reach the park using the bus system. Dreamworld makes a great first impression. The park has an impressive skyline from the parking lot. Steel Titan and Gold Coaster both run alongside the parking lot. You also catch a glimpse of a few slides at WhiteWater World, and then in the distance, you have Giant Drop looming over everything. Then the entry plaza reminds me of a cross of Disneyland and Universal. The entrance itself reminds me of the Disneyland train station. Then the main plaza is a globe bearing the park's name in a similar vein to the one at Universal. I thought the Main Street area and Town Square area looked good. Both had a traditional feel to them. Then the park has some lightly themed areas as well. The front half of the park is where you'll find the rides. The back half contains the park zoo. The two sections feel like distinctly different parks. The ride area is bright and colorful. Then the back area is a woodsy and heavily shaded area. I think this contrast is fine. The former adds energy to the ride area. I particularly like the Ocean Parade area that had a fun festival vibe to it. Then the latter allows you to focus on the animals. There are two areas of the park that felt incomplete during my visit, but that's because both are in the process of being overhauled. Gold Rush Country was decimated by the ride removals, especially with the loss of Buzzsaw on the park's water rides. Steel Titan was placed over there, and the midway looks great with the ride running around you and the snake spine going above the pathway. But two things still need work. One, the area by Steel Titan is currently a dead end accessible by only the main plaza. I hope the park plans to connect it to the back midway with the rest of the land. This ties into the next item. Two, the area by Giant Drop feels like a construction site. It didn't even feel like you were supposed to be over there when I visited the park. I imagine this will be rectified when Giant Drop finally reopens for its multi-year refurbishment. The other area in flux is the kids area. Just before my visit, the park lost its DreamWorks license, so Dreamworld was in the process of transforming the area into Kenny and Belinda's Dreamland, named after the park's mascots. What was ready already looked good. The area has a jungle vibe to it, but some rides were fenced off and in the process of being updated still. Let's move on to the operations. This park has the same strengths and negatives as the Village Roadshow parks I previously reviewed. On the bright side, the park has extremely friendly staff, which is a theme across all of Australia. And this is one of those year-round parks that post their maintenance schedule in advance, so you can see if a ride you care about is closed prior to planning a trip. One thing to watch out for is that we saw some dates fluctuate for rides in the midst of being refurbished. Giant Drop's refurbishment was extended a few extra months, causing us to miss it. Then the spinning seat for Steel Titan reopened a few days late, causing us to rearrange some activities so we could experience it. On the contrary, a few rides opened ahead of schedule in the kids area. On the downside, Dreamworld is very short hours. At most, it's open for 7 hours from 10 AM until 5 PM. That is it. But there are days when it's open even less. Sometimes it's open for just 5.5 hours from 10:30 AM until 4 PM. If you only care about the coasters, you can comfortably see this park in a half day. But you will absolutely need a full day if you plan to spend time doing the non-coasters and or go back to the zoo area. And I think you'll need a second day entirely if you plan to spend time at WhiteWater World because it has a sizable water park with a handful of slide towers. The park is open almost every day at least, only closing for Christmas and Anzac Day. Lines were short, but rides did not have the highest throughputs. This was for a few reasons. One, all coasters had one train operations. I've heard this is pretty typical for the park, unfortunately. Two, some rides have painfully slow dispatch speeds. The two biggest culprits are Sky Voyager and Moto Coaster. Those lines crawled. 3. All rides have very strict loose article policies. You cannot bring anything with you on most rides. That includes glasses even with a strap, and anything in a pocket. Fortunately, every single ride has complimentary loose article bins for these in your bags, and they're on the platform too, but this does slow down loading. I haven't heard of this park getting too busy since the 2016 accident, and I barely had to wait even with my visit coinciding with a school holiday. Only 3 rides had appreciable waits. Sky Voyager and Moto Coaster had half-hour waits most of the day due to their low capacities. Then Steel Titan had a similarly long wait just after opening, but it was just a 1 to 2 train wait for the second half of the day. If the park is busy, there is a skip the line pass. This is a pricey upcharge though, so I would wait until the day of to determine if it's even necessary. Individual rides cost $25 a piece to skip. You can get skip the line passes for 5 rides for roughly $70, but it is worth noting these all need to be used during a specific 90-minute window. Lastly, you can get an unlimited option for $130. Just note that Moto Coaster and Giant Drop are not included on any level of this service. If you purchase Ride Express, these should be your top priorities early in the day. Another nice surprise is that the park has a few single rider lines. Steel Typing is an extremely useful one. Barely anyone was using it, so it was essentially a walk-on all day long. Tailspin also has one, but it's not particularly helpful. That is a Gerstlauer Skyfly with just 12 seats. They will only pull someone from the single rider line if they get exactly 11 people from the standby line. I would not be surprised if this usually takes longer than the regular line. So how should you tour this park? If you arrive at opening, I would start with Sky Voyager. That is the slowest loading ride in the park by far. Ideally, you can get in the first cycle of the day. Save it for later if it already has a line, because many people make this their first stop because it's the closest ride to the main entrance. I would then head back to Moto Coaster and Giant Drop. This should allow you to knock out the 3 lowest capacity rides within the first half hour. With all that covered, let's talk about the rides. No other park in Australia offers as many rides as Dreamworld. For roller coasters, you have 4 that are currently open. You have a family coaster, a junior coaster, and 2 thrill coasters. Then you have 2 under construction that should round out the lineup. Jungle Rush will be a Vekoma creation that will include a turntable, a dozen airtime moments, and lots of theming. This will immediately have a case as the best family coaster in Gold Coast when it opens in 2024. Big Red Boat will be a kiddie coaster opening later this year. This will be a better option than the park's current junior coaster and Escape Coaster. This is an older generation Vekoma Junior suspended coaster. These rides are notorious for offering headbanging, but this one was fairly smooth. It's just a step up from your usual kiddie coaster and skews more towards the family demographic. This is one of the rides in the process of being rethemed, and it will soon be known as Kenny's Forest Flyer. Moto Coaster is the park's true family coaster. This is the prototype Intamin straddle coaster. Most rows have motorbike style seating. It is a cool riding position, but the restraints are really awkward. I didn't find them uncomfortable, but I know some do. Then there are some standard sit-down seats towards the back with lower height limits for kids. While the initial launch and first turn are decent, most of the ride is fairly uneventful. The ride stays low to the ground, but has a repetitive figure 8 layout with a series of forgettable turns. I go more in depth in a separate review, but this unfortunately may be the weakest moto coaster in the world. Gold Coaster is an interesting aero looping coaster. The ride originally opened as Big Dipper at Luna Park, Sydney, but was removed due to noise issues. It reopened at Dreamworld in late 2001, and it has had multiple themes over the years. At one point it was themed to a storm, and later Hot Wheels, but now is a surfing and party theme. The ride itself is one of the better aero loopers. It tracks much better, and the vest restraints eliminate all headbanging. Then the layout is weird and forceful. Because of Luna Park's space constraints, the elements occur in a different order. For example, the inversions do not occur until the end. Then these inversions also have great positive Gs, as do a few other spots in the ride. See my review for more detailed analysis. The final coaster is easily the park's best in Steel Typing. This is a diverse mock launch coaster. You have a wide variety of elements, including a few airtime hills and 4 fun inversions, including the final barrel roll that has incredible whip, laterals, and airtime. It feels similar to Velocicoaster's Mosasaurus roll, and the entire ride is glass smooth too. Steel Typing is a near clone of Europa Park's Blue Fire, but it has 2 key changes. First, the coaster is a swing launch with a twisted spike. I think this is an improvement. The backwards launch has some good force to it, and the spike has good positive Gs at the base, and it's really disorienting with the twist. Second, there's a spinning seat on the back of the train. This is what really made the experience special for us. The seat doesn't spin too much, it is a very slow and gradual rotation, but getting to experience several elements sideways or backwards accentuated the forces. It was especially magical if you took that final barrel roll in a weird orientation. A few notes on the spinning car though. First, if the past 2 years are any indication, it seems to go down for maintenance in about Q1. Second, you need to pay $25 to try it. There was plenty of availability the day of. You can either purchase the experience online and redeem your wristband at the Fairy Tale Treasures gift shop by the coaster, or you can purchase the experience in person at the main gift shop off of Main Street. It is costly, but I highly recommend it. It is the best experience at the park and really elevates the coaster, as I said in my review. This is easily Australia's best park for flat rides. You have a deep collection, particularly when it comes to thrill rides. A few in particular stand out. The most notable is the one we sadly missed in Giant Drop. This is a 390-foot or 119-meter tall drop tower from Intamin. From those heights, you should be able to see for miles, and I've heard those who've experienced it says the drop packs more of a punch than similarly tall drop towers in the USA. It definitely looks like one of the world's best drop towers for this reason. Of the flats I experienced, 3 in particular were memorable. Serpent Slayer is the world's best Zamperla air race. It is the most intense one by far. Usually these rides slowly invert you, giving some hang time. Serpent Slayer does this, but it also has this section when you run at double speed. These rapid rotations are extremely disorienting and forceful. I started to gray out, which I've never done this type of ride before. Just make sure to join the queue for the wild side if you want this experience. There is also a mild side that runs at half speed and stays mostly upright. Tailspin is a Gerstlauer Skyfly. If you know what you're doing, you can get 30 to 40 flips in this ride. I have a whole video already published on the technique needed to do this, but in short, rhythmically rock your body and wings in unison. Once you get that first flip, hold the wings steady, and you will invert non-stop for the remainder of the ride. Few rides can make me dizzier. Claw is a very good Intamin gyro swing. This frisbee ride is very little filler. It just jumps straight into the max swings, which have good lifter airtime, and you swing high enough that it feels like you're inverting. Then the down swings hit you with good positive G's and nice speed. Of the remaining flats, you have some solid spinning rides for families, including a Zamperla Disco Coaster and Shockwave. For kids, you have 2 designated areas. The newly rethemed Kenny and Belinda's Dreamland has some family-friendly flats. Then ABC Kids World has smaller and gentler rides waiting for you. This land used to be home to a Wiggles-themed dark ride known as Big Red Car, but sadly it closed. This means the park's only dark ride is Sky Voyager. This is a good flying theater from Brogent. It reminds me of Disney's Soarin' in a good way, as you fly over Australia's most famous landmarks and landscapes. The visuals are great, but just know this ride uses a boatload of mist. The park's biggest gap is the lack of water rides, which is understandable in light of recent events. If you want to cool off, you'll need to visit the WhiteWater World water park. This is an extra cost, but it looks to be a sizable water park. You have all the key genres, including tube slides, body slides, and even a water coaster. I wish I could have tried some of the slides, but we did not have enough time with the park's short hours. Beyond the rides, the park also offers a nice zoo. If you're coming from overseas, you will find several animals native to Australia that you can't really see elsewhere. This includes koalas and dingoes. And then there are 2 additional experiences worth considering. First, you can feed kangaroos for a low price of just $2. You get a bag of food, and then there's a big open area where they're just roaming around. Second, you can book animal encounters. The most popular ones will sell out, so book these in advance. And they're very reasonably priced too for what you get, especially because they come with complimentary photos. We did 2 of these. The dingo encounter was a 20-minute experience where the zookeeper talked about the animals. Then we got to sit with and pet them. Their behavior reminded me of a domesticated dog. Then you also have the opportunity to hold a koala here. These are some of the cutest animals on the planet, and it was a bucket list thing for my wife and I. Related to the time constraints we mentioned earlier, we did not have time to try any meals at the park. There were some permanent shops, plus some trailers in the Ocean Parade area. So do I recommend Dreamworld? I sure do. This is a really good theme park dabbling in a bit of everything. You have a strong ride lineup and is only improving with the park's recent additions. Steel Typin, especially in the spinning seat, is a worthy headlining coaster. Then there are several notable supporting coasters and flat rides to experience. Then you can easily spend a few hours in the zoo area as well for a well-rounded experience. I'm excited to see what this park looks like once their current expansion is complete, because the park has changed pretty significantly in recent years. The one thing I hope the park can improve upon is their operations, both in terms of the hours and dispatch speeds. The park has good attractions, I just wish you could do more of them in a day. So those are my thoughts on Dreamworld, the most complete park in Gold Coast, Australia. What are your thoughts about this park? Let me know what you think, especially if you visited the park before and after the current investments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.